protests have become common features in contemporary societies when citizens communicate their discontent with government policies, actions, and inactions. One of such protests against unfulfilled promises by the government is the ongoing strike by members of the Academic Staff Union of University, ASUU, which has lingered for nearly 6 months with no resolution in sight. But the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities has appealed to the federal government to resolve issues with ASUU immediately. The chairman of the committee, Professor Samuel Edumie-Kumo, said government insistence that it does not have money to fund the universities is disheartening, since demands by ASUU are not for the union alone. Mujid, the fact that we're getting behind the figures is that Nigeria is broke officially. And governments keep saying that, look, they cannot unilaterally raise money for ASUU. Even the Minister of State for Labour, Professor Keyamo, to buttress this, that, look, this could be counterproductive. But the Committee of Vice Chancellors coming together now saying that, look, government should do something. That means Committee of Vice Chancellors, they are involved directly in the management of these universities. So they should know what they are saying to put this thing. I expected them to say, oh, ASUU, please, we that were involved in the management of this university, we know that governments, we know that they're broke. I don't know, what do you read between the lines?
Yeah, unfortunate that the university system have been shut down for the past 5 months, since February, to be precise. And I don't expect Keyamo to come on national television and talk about our government being broke. If you can't finance education, so why are you in government? Just last week or 2 weeks ago, although the approval was given since March, the federal government bought vehicles worth 1.4 billion naira for Nigeria Republic. I mean, if that is not scandalous enough, we can't have Festus Keyamo, a minister, throwing it in the face of it's like telling ASUU that you guys can go to hell. We are broke, we don't have money. But then people see on a daily basis where some of these monies are being channeled to, you know. And I still keep saying that the excuse on the subsidy where the federal government is spending on petroleum products, I mean, that has been the excuse now. That's why we are not saving, that's why we are not doing anything, that's why we are borrowing to pay salaries. We can't continue to give these excuses. And I think it's only the Education Minister, Adamu, that has been a bit reasonable in terms of the negotiation with ASUU. You see, the ASUU team didn't even want to see the Labour Minister, Dr. Chris Ngige. And I think when people get to the other side, it's like they suddenly forget where they were coming from. This is the same university system that produced all this. Now, what this ASUU strike has done now, WAEC released results of the May-June GCE yesterday. Now we have a backlog of 2 sessions. Most schools are even yet to resume for the last session. Now, this new result that was released yesterday, what is going to happen now is that it's going to increase the competition, because like the chairman of the Vice Chancellors Forum, Professor Samuel Edumie-Kumo, said the academic system is already disrupted. I don't know where they're going to start from. You have a kid running a 4-year course in any Nigerian university now, he will be lucky to graduate in 6 years. Not because the kid is not brilliant, but because there has been so many disruptions to the academic system. So that's why people are gravitating towards putting their wards in private universities, which is not
affordable.
even it's no longer affordable. We know how much they are charging in those schools. So I think the federal government should allow reason to prevail. The president, who is the father of the nation, quote and unquote, gave a 2-week ultimatum to the education minister. That 2 week had lapsed and still no hope in sight. I think elders in this country should talk to the federal government to come to terms and meet ASUU midway so that we can resolve this thing once and for all and we get these schools reopened. I mean, enough damage has been done already in terms of disruptions to the academic system. And to make matters worse, AY, I think we need to reiterate the point that it is wrong for the federal government to stop the salaries of these lecturers just because they are agitating for it. It is very wrong. You don't use the tool of hunger to subdue lecturers from asking for, demanding for their rights when they know that those in the National Assembly will know the huge sums of money they are cutting away on a monthly basis.
No work, no pay policy.
The Trade Dispute Act. Well, I totally align with all that MJ has said. I think the federal government is in trying to play a cautious role, is also shooting itself in the leg. One, Professor Skiamo is not a member of the negotiating team. The Professor Nimi Briggs panel, Professor Nimi Briggs, the Pro-Chancellor of Ekweme University in Boy State, is the head of the team. So where did Skiamo get that information? He only extracted a portion of the report, which recommended some measures of increment in the salaries of lecturers, and which was said to have come to about 560 billion naira. Just a portion. The lecturers are also talking about revitalizing the university system. They are talking about end allowances. They are talking about promotion areas. They are talking about IPPIS. And they are also talking about giving the tertiary education system the attention it deserves.
Yeah.
Now, the federal government understands from the pronouncements of some of these functionaries on this strike, understands the fact that, well, the university system, it cannot continue to fully, wholly, or largely fund the university system, which is to the point that, okay, there are certain tuition fees may need to be introduced.
Yeah.
And then certain charges. Understand there was a write-up by Professor Itokpe Ogunbodede. He was the former VC of OAU Ife. He was talking about a charge that was a fee that was introduced, and people railed against it. The National Assembly told the university to refund the money. And so government knows that. He was even saying that there's a fee of 90 naira or so in that university. Of course, we know in the reality of today.
Yeah, that's for bed space.
Yes.
How can we be paying 19 naira for bed space?
That in today's reality, you cannot sustain that. Why can't the government just come out and speak the truth? If you cannot sustain it, let the National Assembly maybe hold a public hearing. Invite all and sundry, including students, and say, look, trash out the issues. First of all, look at. If you think the way out is to charge economically appropriate fees, then let all the stakeholders deal with it. Let them trash it out. You will reach an understanding. But just pretending as if all that ASUU is asking for is about money increment. No. That was what I found.
The bottom line is that there's this spirit of aluta that anytime you are saying that, look, the federal government cannot fund these universities again, that is not realistic, that not everything should be as cheap as this. Maybe primary, secondary education, but not all tertiary education should be funded by the federal government because they simply don't have the money. And now how they're going to work towards university autonomy. What are those things that can be, that can be billed. Like, I'm sure if you go and check the tuition fee for University of Lagos now, I don't think University of Lagos will be charging as much as 100,000.
Are universities charging?
That's what I'm saying. That
No, they're actually charging
Federal universities.
Yeah, I think it's 13,000. It's about
so
13,000.
Mojib, let's be real today.
No, you see,
2022.
No.
How can you be charging 13,000?
Yes. Now
For what?
that's the point I'm trying to make here. All the schools in Lagos, all the universities in Lagos, owned by the Lagos state government, are in session because they are charging appropriate fees.
What do you mean by appropriate?
As in
tune with economic realities.
Okay, now.
Are you talking about 200,000?
No. See,
100 and something?
AY. I know that I doubt if there's any private university in Nigeria today where you pay less than 1 million. That is for tuition alone, not accommodation. LASU, I'm giving examples now here. LASU runs off campus. So those students who are having accommodation,
yes.
going
How
to
much
LASU,
would they be
how
paying
much
for,
are they paying for accommodation?
The whole of
Now,
Iba and
I graduated in 1990 from University of Ilorin.
Old man.
Yes, I'm an old man.
But not yet an elder statesman.
Now, my accommodation was 45 naira. Today, that was 1990. 22, how many years later now? Is it 22 or 32 years later? 32 years later, accommodation is 19 naira. Is that
the same University of Ilorin?
Everywhere, all federal universities.
Yes, 19 naira.
19 naira, best place. It is
Okay,
not
in Unilag
realistic.
now, if you are talking about accommodation, if you are saying 19 naira within that, now if you go to Abule Oja will be telling you to go and bring 2 million. You know.
Let us even. You need a 3-bedroom flat and maybe 3 students want to pay. How much will each of them pay? Or even there are some hostels that are even built by PPP
private
arrangements inside Unilag. How much are they paying for accommodation there? You see, Moremi, Makarma Bida, and the 2,000 capacity hostel, the new hall, because that's where when I did my masters, I stayed there. So now, you see students rushing towards the hostels facilities owned by government, while the private-owned hostels that are running on private partnership are charging like 1,000% over, and you see students also staying there. So, rather than for Keyamu to tell us that government cannot fund education, even NANS should be called, the leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students should be called and let them sit down with students and the lecturers and representatives of the federal government. That is no longer realistic for students to be paying 19 naira best space in 2022. It is not practicable.